Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. And this is an absolutely insane chapter. Did not see anything that was going to come out of this chapter so soon. It is actually mind blowing. So, without further ado, chapter 1179. Nerona descends. So the cover story is Yamato, Ace and Otama looking after some boars. It looks very nice, it's very pleasant. But we've got something to discuss. So last we had left off, quick wrap up here. Luffy and Loki were facing off against Eam, who was possessing Gunko's body. Now Luffy had rescued Usopp and Brook, and Loki just seemed to be keeping Eam occupied for the time being, while Eam gave us the story that Loki was indeed someone who went out to sea, targeted whale government ships, and used fog and used like sort of underhanded tactics to skirt around the seas. So we got this exposition while Eam didn't seem to be trying too hard against Luffy and Loki, and we saw that they were driven to this moment where they wanted to use obviously the demonic covenant, the dummy reverse technique, tried to use it on Luffy and Loki, and they immediately sort of took the tentacle hit and battered it away. It didn't do any effect. They weren't converted, they didn't turn on each other. And Ian was like, okay, no surprise, but it was worth a shot, you know what I mean? And they were like confused at what that attack even was. Before Ian could finish a thought, Luffy did a Gatling attack and Loki decided to freeze them in the Niflheim ice we've seen him use before. At this point, Luffy gets exhausted, he goes into his old man form, but Gunko seems to be trapped in ice, so that was the end of that part. We then jumped over and we saw a lot of the other villagers were now on like crowd control. There was no monsters. They were just putting out fires. And we saw that the final giants that were under the demonic conversion were dealt with. Well, they were turned back by Chopper as he rushes in to see Zoro and the others and just taps two of the giants and they turn back. And he explains to Zoro, he's like, I don't know what's happening, but I can convert the demonification back. I can just undo it. And Zoro said it's because you're such an amazing doctor. So this cure-all, idea that Chopper has, the dream, is clearly becoming more apparent now with the able to just undo demonification by just touch, which is really cool to see. But we had the Owl Library was obviously being abandoned, but so had all the books and Biblo, and Saul was really confused because obviously Lilith had used the ODCs to absorb all the fire and like freeze it all over, like convert the energy of the fire to ice. So everything was frozen over, and even Saul was like, look, there's clearly burn marks, even though everything's covered in ice now. But where are all of the books? And also, where's Biblo, the giant owl that can make things bigger? So they were really confused as to what had happened here. There's a mystery going on. But we then saw Summer was reforming his head. Now, I had thought his head reformed over the kind of metallic heart that we saw. But from this chapter, I think his head formed in front of the heart, unless a certain character does something in a little bit. But from the look of it, his head reforms so he can like speak and move around again. It's just a head, and he had a metallic heart nearby. So once we had saw that reveal of what the Holy Knights are getting powered by, the final page of the chapter, we were back in Pangaea Castle in the Holy Land of Marijois. And Eam declared that they were going to leave for a short while. We saw that a lot of the nearby houses by Pangaea Castle were in rubble, there was like debris, places looked like a mess. So clearly the Holy Land had been under some sort of, attack, or something had happened that we don't know what, that we ain't given much detail. But Ian has decided things are okay. I'm going to leave for the first time in however long it's been since Eam has left up in Pangaea Castle. So we pick up, and it was Eam telling the 5 elders, well, the 4 elders in this moment, that they are going to leave. And the 4 in the room, so we've got Mars, Mercury, Jupiter and Nosturo. They are all 4 in the exact same positions as they always are. And they hear what Eam has said on the transponder snail, and they're like, surely you don't mean this? Like, are you really going to visit Elbaf yourself? Like, you've got to reconsider, because for you to descend to the lower realm, like, this is crazy. And our guy Figurlin Garland walks in, and he's like, do you think this is a time for idleness? This man is so military through and through now, that he's like, look, the Holy Land seems to be, matters have been quelled for the moment. We've got Shamrock back, he seems to have sorted stuff out, but we can't be arrogant about this. We can't let the lower realm dwellers take us and use starvation tactics against us. What good are leaders who can't even keep their own soldiers fed? So he's got such a militaristic view, and it is fascinating that he's challenging the other elders who, up until this point, have more just sat and barked orders, and he's like, we need to back this up now. We're the ones in charge, and we need to prioritise, rallying the military might that we have to assert global dominance. This dude has obviously been drafted in for a reason by Ian, and it is showing. He is not taking this position lightly. In fact, he seems to be the one spearheading action, and he's been on the job the least amount of time. So he picks up a transponder snail that was ringing in his personal pocket somewhere, and it is York barking orders saying, she hasn't been fed, she's been brought now to a power plant in Marijois, and she thought that, as she was now a celestial dragon, they'd be a surplus of food, this isn't how they're supposed to live. And he's like, look, we're in a food shortage, you knew the situation, but we're in a deadlock. But if you can get the mother flame and truly harness its energy, then you will live your wish out of being a celestial dragon. That was the agreement. And he makes a absolute huge moment when, again, York's still complaining, throwing a tantrum in the lab, and he's like, you know what, some would consider the original Vegapunk to have allied with this rebellion. Consider this as your penance. And it's like, oh, this man will never trust York, and is still going to hold that over her no matter what. So I'm fairly certain she's never going to be made a celestial dragon. It's fairly obvious that they're just going to use her for the purpose of getting the mother flame, and then once her purpose has been fulfilled, not needed anymore. But he sits down in the chair, poor Saturn's chair that he's no longer in, and he's like, right, we've got one disaster after another, but this has all now started since Nika resurfaced. We're getting this sort of building web of connections now that are cascading through one and another. So they're like, right, it can't just be a mere coincidence at this point. Was all this a build-up? And Jupi's like, look, Eam, the Great One, please do not leave Pangaea Castle. The admirals can go deal with it. We can send them immediately to Elbaf. And Nostrora's like, look, we've got a lot of incidences that have arisen that our hands are just tied with. we really can't do this. And Walker, he stood on business here, and he's like, look, just send me, I'll go and I'll deal with this. And Eames just quiets the room, and he's like, you know what, this isn't a coincidence. You know, our arrogance, our idleness, you know, we've neglected all of this, and we've cast it aside, and all of this was inevitable. And Eames now cycles through all the connecting dots here, all back from Rox, who declares he was going to be back. We've got Gold Roger, you know, seeking out the One Piece and the Great Treasure. We've got Shirahoshi being born, you know, the new Neptune. Shanks stealing the devil fruit all those years ago. The lurking shadow on Elbaf, you know, Harold's there. We've got again Loki and being on that ship that was targeting the Marines. Whitebeard gets a call back here for defending a young man. Who is this Monkey D. Luffy that everyone is flocking towards? And this other one, Marshall D. Teach. Everything is building, and then we see Cobra, you know, the connection with Lily of the Will of D, Joy Boy, Davy Jones. Everything that makes Eames suffer is what they're thinking. And then the last thought is looking at a picture of Lily, seeing the resemblance in Vivi, and just simply saying, we need to retrieve Vivi. So there is a sheer drive and passion now for what Eames is wanting here, and they are ready to take action. So everything had been set in motion long ago, but Eames is declaring that the Holy Land shall be without me for some time. But do not worry, I'm heading for the surface realm. And as everyone's like freaking out in the Five Elders, Garland again just being like, we have zero authority to forbid this. Like, that is the Great One, and we are just simply here to listen. So they're trying to stop Eames. No one can do it. You know, it's gonna happen. The giant infernal sort of demonic ritual circle forms, and Eames snaps out of existence here, teleport away, and the thunderclouds start to roll, and it is huge. We go back to Elbaf, and there is a brief moment here before we know the chaos that is about to arrive, and it is Gerd, Hyrule and Goldberg stands, and the new giant warrior pirates are discussing and have found Summer. And Gerd jokes about, you know, she's got Summer, who's now reformed head and body and legs, but they've bound him up, and talks about how, you know, it's really freaky. Their bodies are like a magnet. Like, she's physically holding his two parts away, but they're being drawn back together almost like a magnet. And she's like, it's really weird. And he's like, Gerd, is it? You know, I'm going to remember you. Like, I'm going to make you have a gruesome death. Like, Summer's raging here. But Goldberg's the one to go, you know, this is really weird. Though, look at this. And it is the steel heart. So, clearly, his head didn't reform around it. But they've somehow managed to, in the time, or maybe it did, found his heart again from, you know, keeping him severed. And Zorro stood there looking, going, oof. Maybe if I destroyed this thing, you know, he wouldn't be able to patch himself up. And Summer doesn't say anything, but he gives it away with his face. He just shits himself. He's like, oh, fuck. Like, they're onto it. So, Zorro clearly here has got cocking up a plan for how to destroy a mechanical steel heart here, which is nuts. But we jump over to the school. We see, you know, Brooke and Usopp are being cared for. Frankie is wanting to make them cyborgs because they look battered and broken. Jinbei looking for Chopper. You know, they need help in this moment. And we see that Sanji and the others have tied Killingham's body up in separate places on the tree and just got him hanging there. And he remembers Sanji saying, I'm going to remember you, Sanji. And he's like, I don't even know who you are anymore. Like, I've already forgotten your name. Great joke. We see Gunko's body still trapped in the ice, and we see a conversation between Loki and Lilith here. So, the school's frozen over, and Lilith explains, it's not so much that it's frozen, it's more the thermal energy was absorbed by the converters, and it's what's left here. But all the fruit is frozen over, so it's not great pickings, but, Luffy's still trying to eat some of it. Loki's eating some frozen bread, it looks like. And Luffy questions, he wanted to make sure Usopp and Brook and the others got fed as well. And then questions, that woman that you froze earlier, what, are they dead? Like, are they able to escape? And Loki says, oh no, that's just a flash freeze, and actually, she won't be dead. But neither will she thaw out, because the only person who can undo that ice is Ragnar himself, who's currently nibbling away at some biscuits. So the ice itself is coming from Ragnar, and Ragnar is the little squirrel who can turn this ice or thaw the ice on and off. So that's pretty cool. But Nami catches a glimpse of something on the horizon, and something awful. The black flaming pillar erupts right near the castle by the western village. That giant column that reaches into the sky, up into the black clouds that are now swirling, and 5 subsequent pillars, each within an area, erupt. There is lightning, there is destruction. Everyone is freaking out, like no one knows where this flame and smoke is coming from. And then all of a sudden, above the castle itself, centered above it, is that demonic circle, the ritual circle that then erupts, and everyone is like looking to get ready for this. And everything in the vicinity, trees and buildings alike, all begin to animate and move and begin like a sort of singing or dance or drum beat of sort, and is heralding what is to come, a very sinister, evil toad. There is a giant eruption, a central set of lightning and conqueror's wave erupts from the center of Aos Castle here. And the kids get knocked out immediately, like they're not taking this blast. The giants and the straw hats kind of hold it too, but are like, this is insane levels of conqueror's haki here. It's the same as what was felt before, Loki says. And inside the castle interior, inside that throne room where the Holy Knights first appeared in, the demonic circle is here. Eam arrives and immediately drops to their knees and coughs up blood, like is wheezing, shaking, and doesn't look good. Like they are like in a angry, agitated state. But for some reason, the teleportation that Eam's just done hurt them. Like Shamrock, Gunko, they went through this teleportation completely fine, unaffected. They just arrived and was like, yeah, this is cool. Why is Eam using their own power hurting them? Like, pretty crazy stuff what's getting set up here. But we see the massive levels of conquerors go off, and the form of Eam, that shadow form that we've been so used to seeing, starts to break. And the true form of Eam begins to erupt from the shadows, and these wings sprout. We see a massive explosion from one of the turrets, and everyone just almost unanimously, subsequently, everyone at the same time is like, what is that that's just come out from that explosion? Who's that? And as the pillars are starting to settle, all the laughter, all the beating, similar levels of like the drum beat that like Luffy has when he goes into Gear 5, but they seem to be a lot more sinister. All the trees and houses that are laughing, we see Killingham and Summer immediately recognise who this is. Like, instantly saying, this is the Great One. It's not possible that they've come here in person, is it? There is someone on top of the castle spire. This person is huge. And I mean that we see a good perspective of the castle spire, this pyramid. And on top of the pyramid is a figure. Huge. Like, for scale, this person stood on top of the spire and clearly could be ancient giant size. And I think they are, because of the demonic horns that this individual has. The world government creator, one of the first 20. The current king of the world, Saint Nerona Eam. For the first time in this entire story, we get a full character display of Eam and what they look like. And he is absolutely terrifying. He has the black swirling clouds that are erupting around him, but the circle that goes behind his head are covered in eyes. Like, it is like piercing the sort of demonic levels of intensity he is given here. He's got those ancient giant horns. His complexion is that of a Lunarian. So similar to King, he has like white hair, his skin's darker, but he has these almost ritualistic sort of hieroglyphic tattoos, like down one side of his face and along his arm we see. He has a long flowing cape with like half a symbol on it. We can kind of only see part of it. He has this huge fuck off polearm weapon, which is like zigzagged and curved, and that's also sprouting black clouds, but it's massive. It's like twice as big as his body. Like, it is crazy. And all it says in the title box is ability Devil's Fruit. How do we not make this connection so long ago? All of the devil fruits that are out there, there had to have been one that started it. And why isn't it that it was just the devil fruit, or the devil fruit? Eam is in possession of the original, the prime devil fruit that might have started it all, and he is the one who consumed it, the one who created and what caused the devil fruit to, be shunned by the sea, to have all these afflictions. Eam is in possession of the devil fruit. Like, that is crazy because of how strong it is going to be. Like, he looks sinister, and all of these like clouds, he's got this long flowing trail, and like he's only kind of wearing like belts and pants, like he seems to just be cloaked over. And all we see in the close-up of his face, these really demonic eyes, is the blood that's pouring from his mouth, and he's like wiping it away. So there is some immediate blowback in the use of Eam's power on his body. This is actually nuts. Like, what a way to end the chapter, revealing Eam himself, like seeing him in full display now. Now, I don't know about you, but whether this is what Eam has always looked like, or whether it's more, this has become like a perfect vessel for Eam over the years. This Lunarian body in an ancient giant size, the clouds, the devil fruit ability itself. Like, it could almost be that Eam can like create a vessel or possess a vessel of such magnitude, but the body might be failing here, with the blood happening, the levels of Conqueror. Maybe this vessel is not able to handle such high levels of power anymore. And Eames looking for a new vessel to take over. And this is going to get actually crazy. But I don't think many people on this island, other than maybe Luffy and Loki, are going to be able to lay even a finger on Eames in this state. He looks terrifying. Like, this is the dude now, the king of the world, who sits atop, and this is the end game level sort of antagonist we've been waiting for in this story. Like, he is certainly filling out the role now of what he's capable of and what he looks like. It's going to be actually insane what we see in these subsequent chapters to come, because I don't think Eames is letting anyone off now. There is no way that there isn't some repercussion, or there isn't a world where everyone survives this. There's a level of consequence here for Eames himself to show up, to look this terrifying. But he looks so cool. I cannot wait to see what this devil fruit does and how strong he is, being the size, being he has a weapon. The dude's got a huge polearm weapon. Like, the last time we saw a polearm was Whitebeard. Like, this is crazy. It is like a sort of hybrid mix of a lot of past villains. He's sat like an L. He looks like Kaido. He's got Whitebeard, spear, and helmet, or whatever it is. He's got the black clouds we've now seen from the Five Elders and like Lucci and that. Like, it is the ultimate combination of terrifyingness that Luffy has to face off against. And it's going to be nuts. So I cannot wait to see where we go next. But thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of this chapter, and I'll see you guys next time.